One.
Good evening and welcome to the June 4th meeting of Troy City Council. I'm Marty Baker, President of Council. Please silence the electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. We'll begin with the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. God, we are grateful. We ask that you direct the decisions of the council. Bless our first responders and those in military services. We pray that you will continue to watch over all of us and keep us safe. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Lutz?
Here?
Mr. Terwilliger?
Here.
Mr. Sievert?
Present.
Mr. Kendall?
Here.
Mrs. Oda?
Here.
Mr. Swazer?
Here.
Mr. Heath? Mr. Twist? Mr. Phillips?
Move to excuse
Which one?
Phillips. We need to do each one individually?
Yes.
Okay. Move to excuse Mr. Twist.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Sievert and seconded by Mrs. Oda to excuse Mr. Twist. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Mr. Twist is excused.
Move to excuse Mr. Phillips.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schwartz, seconded by Mr. Kendall to excuse Mr. Phillips. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips is excused.
I'll move that we excuse Mr. Heath, please.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Sievert to excuse Mr., what did you say?
Heath.
Heath. Thank you. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Heath is excused.
Tonight, we have a presentation from Rumpke of Ohio. Mayor Beamish, I believe you'll be making that
I
presentation.
will, thank you, and I would invite Alina Weaver to come forward. Lena lives on Wheeler Street, my neck of the woods, and obviously Rumpke is very interested in a community recycling program, and it's good for our environment. And Alina was one that has spotted many times doing just that, recycling for the betterment of our environment. And so for the second time, we've done this on a quarterly basis. So this is a second presentation that were able to be made today. Jerry Mullins was going to be here. I don't see him, so it's me. But Alina Weaver, on behalf of all of us gathered here and all the community, we do appreciate your efforts in recycling, demonstrating to others what we could all do even better. So thank you so much. This gift bag is for you with some goodies inside. It comes from Rumpke, so I want to, on behalf of Rumpke, present that to you with grateful appreciation from all of us for your efforts. Thank you very much.
in lot number 7039, located at 530 Crescent Drive in the city of Troy, Ohio, from the zoning of OC1 Office Commercial to the zoning of R7 Multiple Family Residential District.
I now declare Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak against the ordinance? Seeing none, I declare. Mrs. Knight, please read a summary of the minutes of the May 21st, 2018 meeting of Troy City Council.
Minutes of council, May 21, 2018. Committee reports. Finance Committee recommended legislation be prepared authorizing filing of application for $150,000 of PY 2018 CDBG funds. Committee also recommended legislation be prepared authorizing filing of an application for $500,000 of critical infrastructure program funding of CDBG to expand the Harrison Street, Atlantic Street water main project. Committee also recommended that legislation be prepared authorizing an application to use up to $120,000 of CDBG RLF fund balance for improvements to Lincoln Community Center. Recreation and Parks recommended that legislation be prepared authorizing agreement for the Strawberry Festival. Streets and Sidewalks Committee recommended that legislation be prepared authorizing agreement with LJB Inc. of Miamisburg, Ohio for the design of the Riverside Drive Improvement Project. Utilities Committee recommended that legislation be prepared to enact a new ordinance section regarding small cell facilities and wireless support structures. Resolution number R18, 2018, agreement with LJB, design of Riverside Drive project, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R18, 2018, file application for use of CDBG funds was given first reading and was adopted. Resolution number R20, 2018, an application to use CDBG critical infrastructure funds for water main replacement project was given first reading and was adopted. Resolution R21, 2018, an application to use part of CDBG RLF funds for work at Lincoln Center, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 018, 2018, accept final plat Stonebridge Meadows Plan Development 6 and 7, fourth reading and adopted. Ordinance number 022, 2018, regarding small cell facilities, wireless support structures was given first reading. Ordinance number 023, 2018, a rezoning of 530 Crescent Drive was given first reading. Ordinance number 024, 2018, an agreement for the 2018 Troy Strawberry Festival was given first reading and was adopted. Following comments, council adjourned at 7:48.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded by Mr. Kendall to accept the minutes. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Swazer?
Yes.
Mr. Lutz?
Yes?
Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Sievert?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
Move on to Community and Economic Development Committee. And in the absence of Mr. William Twist, chairperson, Mr. Kendall, can you please provide that report?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. This committee William Twist, Chairman.
Are there any questions from council? Thank you, Mr. Kendall.
Thank you.
The Law and Order Committee, John Swazer.
Yes, Madam President. The subject is the Troy Main Street Agreement, notwithstanding ordinance for Donut Jam event. Agreement with Rocket Ship Sports and Company of Greenville, Ohio for Tour de Donut, notwithstanding ordinance. On June 1, council members Phillips and Schweizer met to consider council authorization of two agreements for events, August 24th and 25th. Both will include the use of public property, and one includes the use of public property for the sale consumption of alcoholic beverages. The authorizations include the notwithstanding wording. It is the recommendation of this committee that legislation be prepared to authorize the Director of Public Service and Safety to enter into an agreement with Rocket Ship Sports and Company related to the Tour de Donut event. Authorize the Director of Public Service and Safety to enter into an agreement with Troy Main Street and Company related to the Donut Jam event, and include the standard notwithstanding legislation for such events. And this is respectfully submitted by Mr. Phillips, Mr. Siebert, and myself as chair.
Are there any questions from council? Thank you, Mr. Schweizer. We now state your name and address. There is a 2-minute time limit at this point in the meeting, and Mr. Grant Kerber is our timekeeper.
Lester Connor, 1210 South Clay Street. The only thing I'm requesting is people use their microphones when they're talking because it's hard to hear you up there. Please
If I was
use,
loud, I apologize.
please use your microphones. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? As a point of explanation, tonight with only 6 members,
Chapter 929, the codified ordinances of the City of Troy, Ohio, and amending Section 933 of the codified ordinances of the City of Troy, Ohio, to add and implement subsection 903.27 regarding small cell facilities and wireless support structures and declaring an emergency. This is the second reading.
and this will go to a third reading. Mrs. Knight, please read ordinance 023, 2018.
Ordinance number 023, 2018, ordinance changing the zoning of parcel number D08058770 in lot number 7039, located at 530 Crescent Drive in the city of Troy, Ohio, from the zoning of OC1 Office Commercial District to the zoning of R7 Multiple Family Residential District. This has been recommended for approval by the Troy Planning Commission and had a public hearing this evening.
Okay, this will go to committee, and I believe that committee meeting has been set. Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Madam President, I believe it's been set for next Wednesday at 6:15 on the 4th. Is that the 14th?
June 13th.
Yes.
13th.
13th, I believe, yeah. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Knight, please read ordinance 025, 2018.
Ordinance number 025, 2018, ordinance accepting the final plat of Halifax Estate Subdivision, Section 4, in the city of Troy, Ohio, and dedicating right-of-way. This has been recommended for approval by the Troy Planning Commission, first reading.
And this, again, will also go to another reading.
Yes.
Mrs. Knight, please read ordinance 026, 2018.
Ordinance number 026, 2018, ordinance changing the zoning of 8.015 acres, part of in-lot 9891, in the city of Troy, Ohio, from the zoning of R3B Single Family Residential District to the zoning of AR Agricultural Residential District, and repealing ordinance number 09, 2018. This has also been recommended by the Troy Planning Commission. There will be a public hearing at the next meeting, first reading.
Okay. This will go to a second reading as well. Mrs. Knight, please read ordinance 027, 2018.
The use of public areas for the 2018 Tour de Donut event, notwithstanding conflicting provisions of the Troy codified ordinances, and authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Troy, Ohio, to enter into an agreement with Rocket Ship Sports, Inc., therefore. This is the first reading.
And this will go to a second reading. Mrs. Knight, please read.
Ordinance authorizing the use of public areas for the 2018 Donut Jam event, notwithstanding conflicting provisions of the Troy codified ordinances, and further approving the use of an area for the sale of beer and wine subject to the issuance of proper permits by the state of Ohio and procurement of liquor liability insurance, and authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Troy, Ohio to enter into an agreement with Troy Main Street, Inc. Therefore, this is the first reading.
And this also will go to a second reading. That completes the...
No, they're not.
Mayor Bennett?
and family values. Most of the time, those two things come together, and we have great events. With regard to the issue of ever-increasing public areas for serving and consuming alcohol, I am having, and I still have, difficulty reconciling support for the community. I do to an event. As an educator, long-time educator, we can't and that is a part of my concern. This past weekend, individuals visit the Troy Strawberry Festival. There were all it's a great festival, and we have a lot of people come, and they didn't need alcohol, and I will tell you, many of those vendors, if not most vendors, sold out of their products that they had during this past weekend. Just wanted to keep that in mind as you deliberate. Second thing is the team. There's others around here that know some of those folks. So, share with these young people as they school. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Titterington, comments this evening, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one. You may have noticed this morning going to work that the North Market section from the bridge to the fountain has been slimmed, if you will. The first leg of the road diet is now in effect, now been implemented. Just wanted to remind folks in the audience and as well as the council, as you might get questions, that what we're doing was the result of several months of study by an outside traffic engineer. They studied, they analyzed the traffic flows, the congestion issues, the traffic safety concerns, the parking issues, both number of stalls as well as the growing problem of extended vehicles, which I think at some point we're just going to have to call them vehicles, and anything that's not extended we'll call undersized vehicles, since the majority are, it's creeping into the majority, those that are longer wheel span vehicles. And you might recall that earlier this year, we did have a council work session to discuss the parking and traffic recommendations, and one of the items that I believe was unanimously council wanted to see was this road diet. And so first day, nice weather, it was very calm out there. It appears after day one, the sky is not falling, at least not yet. We have bagged the stoplights around the fountain. They will remain bagged for 30 days and then would be removed. The north section, as you come across the bridge, once you cross the bridge and you're coming towards the fountain, it will split. The right lane being right turn only, left lane being left turn only, and then one lane through. There are 4 potted plants that are serving as refuge islands, if you will, in on all 4 directions. We have restriped the parallel parking spaces on each side of North Market to angled parking, and they are extended stalls with lines behind them so that people can see just how far they can park before they might have a problem. Again, it's day one. We'll continue to monitor it. We're encouraged so far. It was a good day for it to, just kept on from the weekend. So. The next step will be to implement South Market from the fountain down to Simpson Street. We are weighing when to do that. Just want to continue to monitor North Market and see how smoothly it goes, and then we will implement the south leg thereafter. The West Main Street portion, as I mentioned before, we are delaying that to coincide with the safety grant possibilities that we have related to the West Main Street Corridor Rehabilitation Project, and so that may be delayed, but again, we'll continue to monitor and see how successful it really is. That's all I have. Thank you.
And this is the same as we've had from East Main Street coming in, basically,
That
right?
has been, 2 years now that we've
Yeah.
had that as a reduced, and that kind of inspired us to look at the other 3 sections.
Thank you. Director of Law, Mr. Kerber, any comments this evening?
I have no comments this evening, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. City Auditor, Mr. Prigge.
Thank you, Madam President. I have nothing at this time.
Thank you. Council- So just calling that to your attention.
4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock tomorrow. Are there any comments from city council members tonight? Any comments from city staff members this evening? Any questions or comments from the audience this evening?
Good evening, council members. Bradley Branger, 128 Mount Street in Piqua. And I'm
Hello.
Frank,
I'll have to double check that. I will say, though, that the 2-hour parking is only enforced Monday through Friday. I think it goes to Saturday, but we don't have a weekend enforcement. But
I think it was
only between
yeah.
certain hours. But I don't know that we've changed it from
That
the
what we're
insurance. So I'll have to check on that. We'll have to get back to you on that.
Because everybody.
Any other questions or comments?
Lester Connor, 1210 South Clay Street. Mayor, you talk about the drinking and the activities and all that. You can blame TV. That's the bottom line. Now, think of it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Titterington?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to address Mr. Connor, we do have an annual crack sealing program, and that serves a couple of purposes. It's not primarily to eradicate weeds, but it is to seal the cracks so that the weather doesn't, and the freeze-thaw cycle doesn't further crack and get underneath the base of the asphalt. We are also this summer going to do some weed control. It is difficult in some areas to keep up with that, only because the most effective weed control in the roads is cars driving over it, tires driving over, maintains that. That is, when you have cul-de-sacs and small local streets with not a lot of residents, that's a little bit more difficult, but we are going to make an effort this summer to do that. As far as the storm grates, the catch basins and cleaning those, we do have an annual list of those that we know get clogged up, and so as part of our stormwater maintenance program, the Phase 2 requirements from the federal government, we do have a preventive maintenance schedule that we follow virtually year-round. I mean, as long as it's not iced over or some really bad weather. We do have 2 vac trucks that we do use to keep those as clean as possible. As always, if there are areas that people see, if there are catch basins that they feel are clogged, they can always give us a call or go on the website and file the form, and it goes immediately by email to me as well as staff.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
And another thing is, we did get work on the street out there, and I called Gary or Jerry, whoever it is that you told me to call, earlier this month, and I said, when are you going to put the curbs in, to replace the curbs, where you took them out to put the basins and the stuff in, on both sides of the street? He said to be, at the end of the month, we're going to, that's farmed out, and they should take care of it. Well, we're now in June, and we still ain't seen nobody out there to do it. So now, every time it rains, and it's, you know, I've been out there gathering up the stuff off there again. It's eating all that dirt.
Can you remind me what the address is?
7. And they put, when they told me what the problem was, they said, why? I don't know. If it calls for 16, it looks like they would have put 16s in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience have any comments or questions? Thank you all